Scarlet had always known how to act like the right kind of girlfriend. Not dramatic, not needy, not messy. She'd learned how to smile at the right beat, let her boyfriend's hand find hers, and lean into kisses like they were small duties rather than lightning strikes. I hope you're going to enjoy this story, and if you do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. When Dan kissed her, she noted the warmth of his mouth, the faint taste of beer, and waited for the flutter people promised. Nothing came. The same blank quiet she'd carried since her first boyfriend stayed put, familiar as stage dust. Dan was kind. He studied business, kept his calendar neat, and checked in on her during late rehearsals. He sent her photos of his cooking experiments, most recently a lopsided calzone, and wanted to plan their future like a shared spreadsheet. He made life legible, stable. Scarlet told herself stability was enough, but under the orderly weeks, she carried a hush like an unlit stage. It wasn't pain, it was the absence of resonance. Scarlet's world was theater, though not in the way people admired. She was a literature major who lived backstage, coiling cables, laying spike tape, calling cues in a headset too big for her head. She liked being the quiet steadiness that kept things from breaking. While actors rehearsed monologues in bright light, Scarlet memorized the comfort of prop tables with outlines drawn in Sharpie and the smell of paint that never quite left the set walls. People thought she was shy. The truth was, she liked being where the work showed, but she didn't have to. One Tuesday night in late January, Scarlet pushed open the heavy doors of the main stage to check the ghost light. Tech Week had scattered the place with coffee cups and sawdust. A single bulb stood at center stage, throwing a thin circle of light. In that circle, a woman was speaking to the empty rows. Scarlet froze. The woman's voice was low and steady, reading lines Scarlet didn't recognize. She wasn't performing for applause. She was trying the words on like a second skin. She stopped when she noticed Scarlet, then smiled. "Stay," the woman said. "I like the way the room listens." Scarlet shifted the roll of spike tape in her hand like a credential. "I was just checking the marks." "Then you're qualified," the woman replied, stepping closer to the edge of light. "I'm Judy." "Scarlet." Judy lifted the script. "Would you read opposite me? It's a breakup scene. I keep losing the beat without someone to push against." Scarlet wanted to refuse. Ghost light rehearsals were liminal, half real. But something in Judy's expression, open, assured, pulled her forward. She crossed into the circle and accepted the pages. Her voice stumbled over the first line. Judy's eyes steadied her. They found the rhythm. At the cue where a stage manager announces a fire drill mid-heartbreak, Scarlet laughed, the sound startling her. Judy grinned like that was the right note. "Better," Judy said when they finished. "Thanks. Rehearsal brain gets lonely." Scarlet nodded toward the floor. "I live backstage. Tape, props, cue sheets. I'm not much of a reader." "Backstage is the room the stage needs to breathe," Judy said. Her tone was matter-of-fact, not flattering. Then, "Want a sandwich? The deli by the stage door is open late." Scarlet blinked. "Now?" Judy confirmed. They walked through the drafty corridor where costumes waited on racks like tired ghosts. Outside, the air bit Scarlet's nose. Judy walked with her hands deep in her coat pockets, easy in the cold. The deli's neon sign flickered above cracked tile. Inside, they ordered sandwiches and sat at the counter facing the street. Judy talked while they ate, about acting classes that made her stand in silence until it felt like screaming, about sewing rips in curtains so cleanly no one would see, about audition prep that meant performing grief in a room where 5 people checked their watches. She was finishing her degree in acting, a little older than Scarlet, already sending out grad school applications and picking up ushering shifts. "Why acting?" Scarlet asked. "There's a moment when a room breathes together," Judy said. "I like helping that happen." She smiled crookedly. "Also, I've tried to quit. Didn't take." Scarlet sipped her soup. She felt the words settle in her chest, not as philosophy, but as truth. Later, Judy mentioned an ex casually, calling her my girlfriend at the time. The word queer slid into the sentence without italics. It landed inside Scarlet with the quiet certainty of a green cue light switching on. She walked home later with napkins in her pocket and the sense that a door inside her had unlatched. That night, Scarlet lay awake scrolling stories from strangers. Women wrote about boyfriends they liked but never wanted to kiss, about years of thinking they were broken until a woman's smile rearranged the silence. Scarlet's chest burned with recognition. She wasn't broken. She had been rehearsing the wrong play. 2 days later, Judy appeared in the green room. "There's a devised theater night downtown," she said. "Black box. Brave or awful depending on who shows up. Want to gamble?" Scarlet hesitated, thinking of the party Dan had invited her to. Sticky floors, loud music, bathroom lines. The word yes was already out of her mouth before she thought it through. The black box was tucked behind a florist and a tattoo shop. Inside, 12 actors built a story from nothing but chairs and breath. It was messy and alive in ways Scarlet had never let herself imagine. When 2 actors kissed on a bench, awkward and unscripted, Scarlet's palms grew damp. Afterward, they walked on slick pavement, Judy offering her arm. "I'm not being chivalrous," she said. "I just fall on ice." Scarlet laughed, hooking her arm through. "Then, if we go down together." In the alley near the theater, Judy stopped. Her face was shadowed but intent. "Is it all right if I—" "Yes," Scarlet said, her chest opening like a stage curtain. The kiss was gentle, assured. Scarlet felt her body say yes in a way it never had before. No fireworks, no blankness, just alignment. When Judy pulled back, she rested her forehead against Scarlet's. "Okay?" Scarlet laughed, breathless. "I didn't know the play was wrong until now." Scarlet didn't sleep that night. She lay on her back, staring at the glow of her phone as the word yes echoed in her chest like a note that refused to fade. Judy's kiss hadn't been a performance. It had been a correction. The world had been tilted all her life, and now, for the first time, she was standing level. By morning, Scarlet's thoughts swung between exhilaration and fear. Dan's name pulsed on her phone, texts about his class schedule, a meme about bad calzones, a reminder about the party Friday night. She replied with polite hearts, but every message felt heavier than it had 2 days before. Judy, in contrast, texted a photo of the theater's cat crouched in a box office window with the caption, "Union Rep." Scarlet laughed out loud in the quiet dorm room and realized the difference between laughing because you should and laughing because you couldn't stop. They began meeting in small pockets of time, half an hour in the green room between rehearsals, quick sandwiches at the deli, late-night walks across the frosted quad. Judy asked questions that weren't small talk. "What did you dream about when you were 10? What part of backstage feels most like home? When you hesitate, whose voice are you hearing?" Scarlet answered in fragments, surprised by what rose out of her when someone cared to ask. One night, Judy invited her back to the small apartment she shared with 2 other actors. The living room was crowded with secondhand chairs and stacks of scripts, but it felt warmer than any of the parties Scarlet had stood through with Dan. They sat on the worn couch, tea mugs steaming between them, and the conversation slowed until Scarlet noticed her own pulse. Judy leaned closer, but didn't close the distance until Scarlet tilted toward her. The kiss deepened. Not hurried, not hesitant, just present. When Judy's hand found hers, Scarlet felt her body answer without instruction. She hadn't realized until that moment how much she had been performing intimacy before. Later, curled under a throw blanket, Judy whispered, "Tell me what you want." Scarlet swallowed. "More of this," she said, "but slower. I don't want to ruin it by rushing." Judy smiled and pressed her lips to Scarlet's temple. "Good," she said. "We have time." But time had a cost. Dan wasn't cruel or inattentive. He was good, steady, patient. That was the problem. Scarlet found herself flinching at his kindness, the way he reached for her hand without noticing she barely held back. She kept hearing Judy's voice, kept remembering the way her body had leaned in, uncoached. Scarlet tried to split herself in two. Days with Dan were steady rehearsals. Nights with Judy were the truth she wasn't ready to name. She told herself she was still figuring it out, that she couldn't end something without knowing what she was stepping into. But the duplicity wore her down. It broke one Friday night at the party Dan had promised would be fun. The apartment was crowded, the floor sticky, the music too loud. Dan stood at her side, arm looped around her waist, talking to a friend about internships. Scarlet smiled and nodded at the right times. Inside, she felt hollow. Then she saw Judy, not in the apartment. Judy wasn't there. But in Scarlet's mind, as clear as if she'd walked in, Judy's crooked smile, the calm assurance in her eyes, the way her kiss had settled Scarlet's world. The contrast was unbearable. Dan turned toward her, squeezing her hip gently. "You okay? You're quiet." Scarlet forced a smile. "Just tired." But the lie lodged in her throat. She excused herself early and walked home alone through the cold, her chest aching with clarity. She couldn't keep being half herself. The next afternoon, Scarlet went to Dan's apartment. He was stirring sauce in a dented pot, humming softly, looking so much like the boy she had agreed to date because he was kind. "Hey," he said, smiling. "You hungry?" Scarlet's heart tightened. "Dan," she said, her voice thinner than she wanted. "I need to talk to you." He turned, spoon in hand, smile fading. "What's wrong?" "I care about you," Scarlet began, and already her eyes stung. "But I've discovered something about myself that makes us the wrong fit." She inhaled, steadying herself. "I'm attracted to women. I think I always have been, even when I didn't know how to say it out loud. I can't keep being with you. It wouldn't be fair to either of us." Dan blinked, set the spoon down with careful precision. "Is there someone?" Scarlet swallowed. "Yes, but this isn't because she exists. It's because I finally do." The words hung between them, fragile and irreversible. Dan leaned back against the counter, his shoulders sagging. He nodded once, slowly, as if learning a new language. "I wish your discovery didn't cost me you," he said finally, his voice thick. "But I'm glad you know who you are." Scarlet cried then, quietly, while Dan handed her paper towels that failed as tissues. He didn't try to hug her, he gave her space, which was the kindest thing he could have done. They stood in silence, two people who had done their best in a scene with no easy lines. When Scarlet left, the calzone photo on her phone felt like an artifact from another life. She walked across campus in the cold, tears drying on her cheeks, both heavier and lighter than she'd ever felt. That night, Judy found her sitting alone in the green room. "You did it," Judy said softly, as if she had known without being told. Scarlet nodded, eyes wet again. "I told him. It hurt, but it was the only honest thing left." Judy sat beside her, taking her hand. "You were honest with him. That matters." Scarlet leaned into her shoulder. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was pretending. After the breakup, Scarlet felt like someone had ripped out the floorboards of her life and left her standing over a hollow. It wasn't regret, she knew the truth had been necessary. But the ache of letting go of something safe pressed into her chest at odd hours. She caught herself about to text Dan when she had a small success, then stopped. He wasn't hers anymore, and she wasn't his. What she did have was Judy. They began filling their days with little rituals, meeting for coffee in the morning, Judy rehearsing monologues while Scarlet taped out prop tables nearby, late-night phone calls when rehearsals stretched too long. For Scarlet, each moment with Judy carried a hum under the skin, like she was learning her body's language all over again. When Scarlet finally told her best friend Priya, it was after load-in for the spring festival. They sat on a curb with sandwiches, sawdust clinging to their jeans. Scarlet's voice trembled as she said, "I'm with Judy. She's my girlfriend." Priya grinned so hard her hat slipped off. Finally, I thought you were going to settle into beige forever. I'm so proud of you. She clinked her coffee against Scarlet's soda can. Welcome home to yourself. Her roommates were next. One squealed for details, the other nodded and said, My cousin came out last year too. I'll bake a cake. The ease surprised Scarlet. She'd been carrying fear like a backpack, only to find most people wanted to help her set it down. The hardest conversation came at her parents' kitchen table. Her mother's hands smelled faintly of lemon dish soap, her father's still soft from a nap. Scarlet's voice shook, but she said it plain. I'm dating a woman. For the first time, I feel right. Silence stretched a beat too long. Then her mother reached across the table and cupped her cheek. You're ours, she said, eyes brimming. We love you. Her father exhaled and asked, practical as ever, Will she come to dinner? Judy came. She told stories about auditions, about the long hours working crew for other people's shows, about her parents' hardware store in Worcester. She nudged Scarlet's knee under the table, not as a secret, but as comfort. Later, washing dishes, Scarlet's mother said quietly, She seems like someone who would help carry heavy things. Judy graduated a semester ahead. She was older, already sending applications to grad programs, picking up contracts that took her out of town for weeks. Scarlet stayed behind, stage managing student productions, writing essays about sincerity in theater, and learning to call her competence without apology. They made it work. Texts between classes, calls in the dark, weekends stolen, when Judy returned with stories of audition rooms that smelled like disinfectant and hope. One rainy night after Judy's return from a long contract, they finally had hours just for themselves. Judy's apartment smelled faintly of damp coats and candle wax. They cooked a simple dinner, laughed about a costume mishap Judy had survived, and curled together on the couch until silence settled around them. Scarlet shifted, her pulse quickening. Can I ask you something? She said softly. Anything. Scarlet swallowed. I want to be with you. Not just kissing, more, but I'm nervous. Judy cupped her cheek, thumb brushing lightly across her skin. Nervous is fine. Nervous means you care. We'll go slow. You get to say yes to each thing or no, whatever you want. Scarlet nodded, breath unsteady. She leaned in first this time, kissing Judy with intent rather than hesitation. The kiss deepened, their mouths parting, breath mingling. Judy's hand slipped gently down Scarlet's arm, lacing their fingers together before resting on her hip. They moved to the bedroom, light dim, rain pattering against the window. Scarlet lay back on the sheets, heart hammering, while Judy stretched beside her, eyes warm and steady. You're beautiful, Judy murmured, tracing a line along Scarlet's collarbone. Scarlet shivered, nerves mixing with want. Judy kissed her throat, her shoulder, moving slowly, asking permission with every touch. Scarlet's body responded in ways it never had before, heat pooling low, skin alive to every brush of lips and fingertips. When Judy's hands slid under her shirt, Scarlet inhaled sharply. Yes, she whispered. Judy peeled the fabric away, kissing the new skin revealed, patient and reverent. Scarlet let her own hands explore, fingers gliding over the curve of Judy's back, the line of her waist. Their bodies fit together in a way Scarlet hadn't believed possible. Curves meeting curves, warmth folding into warmth. When Judy touched her more intimately, Scarlet gasped, hips arching instinctively. The sensation was overwhelming, sharp and tender at once, like discovering a new instrument inside herself. It's okay, Judy whispered against her ear. Just breathe. Let yourself feel. Scarlet did. She felt the rising tide build, heat spreading, muscles tightening. When release came, it was nothing like the blankness she'd known with men. It was color, sound, a flooding of self into self. Tears pricked her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. Judy kissed her through it, lips soft, steadying her. Afterward, they lay tangled, skin damp, breath slowing. Scarlet pressed her face into Judy's shoulder, tears slipping free. "I thought I was faulty," she whispered. Judy kissed her hair. "You weren't faulty. You just had the wrong script. Now you're writing your own." Scarlet smiled into the warmth of her, every nerve alive, every silence filled. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was pretending intimacy. She was living it.